The first human impact is eutrophication. Eutrophication is the process in which a body of water becomes so concentrated with nutrients, especially nitrogen and phosphorus, that the regular ecological functioning of the habitat starts to degrade. This overnutrition comes from point and non-point sources. So point sources include easy to track sources like wastewater treatment plants, like West Point. When nitrogen content is not properly filtered out of waste, it gets released into the Puget Sound and contributes to eutrophication through a process called respiration. Non-point sources, which are less geographically specific, include animal waste runoff from pets, especially on beaches where fecal matter containing high contents of nutrients and numerous dangerous pathogens are left to be swept into the ocean. Also, fertilizer runoff from agricultural producers leads to an increased amount of phosphorus and nitrogen within the Puget Sound region. The second broad impact of human activity on the Puget Sound is a decrease in pH levels, an increase in seawater acidity, which has many cascading effects for both marine and terrestrial life. The biggest contributors to this phenomena are the decomposition of toxic algae blooms, themselves a product of eutrophication, and worldwide CO2 pollution, which increases the acidity of water through a process called respiration. Another local contributor is the natural phenomena of upwelling, which deeper water, more acidic water, is cycled to the surface closer to the coast. The consequences of these two anthropogenic impacts have negative economic, social, and environmental dimensions.
So for the economic impacts, ocean acidification directly affects and threatens Washington State's shellfish farming industry. Washington State leads the nation in shellfish production, and this industry is vital in ensuring Washington State's economic health. It provides thousands of jobs for Washingtonians and provides economic security for these individuals. As more shellfish aren't surviving due to acidification, this industry may not survive if acidification gets worse. Additionally, the UN estimated that by 2100, ocean acidification and its effects will cost $1 trillion per year.
Now onto the social implications. There are several noteworthy ways in which these anthropogenic effects impact our society negatively. These effects include consequences such as beach and waterfront park closures, decreased tourism, decreased abundance of seafood and shellfish, which in turn causes food insecurity for Washington natives who rely on subsistence hunting and gathering, the spread of disease, and cultural loss, especially in Native communities where these spaces are sacred.
Now moving on to environmental impacts. A lot of these are spurred on by the impacts of acidification and eutrophication, like shell-building animals, which, owing to a decreased availability of carbonate ions present in acidic waters, they must expend more energy to build up their shells and to prevent degradation that comes from ambient acidity. Also, the marine food web in general is heavily dependent on species of small pteropods and phytoplankton. But these species are now being threatened by higher mortality rates due to acidification, providing less energy to groups in the food chain which rely on these small species. Finally, some species of fish are now even being threatened. They're beginning to suffer from conditions of hypoxia or a lack of oxygen due to the process of algae decomposition, which reduces oxygen concentration, leading to higher fish mortality rates.
Some solutions to alleviate ocean acidification and harm to Puget Sound include leave no trace. This includes picking up dog poop and other harmful nutrients to the ecology in Washington, increasing animal control presence in vulnerable environments to ensure accountability of pet owners to keep dogs out of Washington beaches, more government infrastructure to filter our wastewater, and minimizing our personal carbon footprint and carbon emissions to keep excess carbon out of our environment and water. And lastly, governmental policy initiatives to decarbonize and limit the use of fossil fuels.